You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
We're back here on Ceraulo Sports Talk, and joining the show up next, it's a friend of the program. He's a former All-Pro linebacker for your first place Seattle Seahawks. He's also a co-host of the Take 12 pod right here on the Believe Network, which covers the first place Seattle Seahawks. It's my man, Lofa Tatupu. Lofa, how you doing, baby?
Joey C, man, after last night, I am great. We're in first place, like you said. It was kind of everybody lost, so we were just tied at first, without playing. But then, we were in first place without playing, but then we solidified it with an actual win in our first game back against the Broncos, against Russ. It was absolutely wild, brother.
And I mean, obviously not everyone who's listening to this right now can see you, but for those watching, you gotta flex the shirt. Let's ride, baby.
Let's ride.
I love it. So Lofa, I mentioned, we'll get to the game, and obviously you were there. So what that atmosphere was like, but I mentioned the Take 12 pod. You obviously co-host our terrific Seattle Seahawks pod on the network. And you had those shirts custom made, right? Those are your shirts, the Let's Ride shirts. But there was some controversy that came with those, man. So what's the deal with the shirts? Are they available now? Is Russ coming for you? What's going on?
I don't even know if it was Russ. I'd imagine, it was some very powerful people, because when it went up on the site, an article, Fanside released an article, and I got all these text messages of people they just did an article on you. I was like, oh, what's the article? Because I had no idea. Because Brett Davern, my great co-host, he really came up with the idea for the shirt. So I want to give credit where credit's due. This is Brett's baby, and he knocked it out the park. But it was funny because all these orders started coming in, and we put in an order for like 200 shirts to just give away as a promo for our Take 12 podcast before the game. And then we get an email saying that our shirts are not being delivered, and we're like, wait a minute, because it was supposed to be delivered on the 10th. And then so we had to replace another order. And when we woke up in the morning, all of our merch was wiped off the store.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wait a minute, even just the regular Take 12 shirts were gone. So it was wild, man. I don't know who it was. But yeah, it was just, Brett was on the optimistic side. He thought that we broke the internet, but it turns out it got wiped. So who knows what happened, but we did put them, they're back up, and I think they're only up for today. So
go get them while you can.
Yeah. And but it was just fun. We're going to come up with some more ideas for t-shirts, just because it's a fun way to get the podcast out there. And Take 12 podcast on the Believe Network, that, the part of the Believe family, man, love what they do for us, and grateful to be a part of them.
Well, look, I hope it wasn't Russ who got those taken down, because whoever did, we're talking about someone who's Charmin soft right there. Those are amazing shirts. I love them, man.
I didn't think they were too bad,
Not at all. I mean, look, Russ doing that whole "let's ride" thing. That's bad. That's if you get made fun of it, it comes with the territory.
I mean, the whole country did the videos. I'd say paying tribute to him, because it took off, man. He crushed it with that one. And then, and for the record, we were not Russ fans last night, but we are forever Russ fans when he doesn't play the Seahawks. And I just want to put that out there. There is no bad blood there. Hope he has an MVP caliber season, which I'm pretty sure he will. I mean, he went off last night. Yeah. Just didn't get the ball in the end zone. Some red zone struggles, and that's why we came away with the win.
Yeah, so let's talk about the game now. What was your reaction? Obviously, like I mentioned before, you were there when Russ ran out onto the field to all those boos from Seattle. We all know Seattle gets louder than any other stadium in the NFL. So what were you thinking when that happened? Did that surprise you?
It wasn't surprising, to tell you the truth, just because of the way everything, happened between Russ and the Hawks, and then the breakup, so to speak. But, it was loud, man. And then they had KJ Wright raising the flag, the legend KJ Wright. But, the reception, I think Russ expected it. And it's kind of like when you have a superstar opposing point guard, and every time they touch the ball, the crowd's just booing. And that's what happened the whole way through, man. It was a playoff atmosphere. Like I said, I had Robert Turbin on the podcast earlier today. And, he was like, it felt like the energy was in the air like it used to be when he was playing. And I know that feeling of being on that field and the 12s just going absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it was, just watching it from TV, you could feel the atmosphere. ESPN kept cutting to the meter that would read, I guess, the decibels for the noise in the crowd, and it was just it was ridiculous. The thing was constantly living in like the 98, 99 range. It was like you're watching a great baseball player pitch and you're looking at the odometer right there tracking them. It was a loud stadium, man. Do you think, or rather, how much do you think that the atmosphere had to do with those 2 goal line fumbles? Because that game had several plays that the Broncos could have walked away with it.
Not just the fumbles, but I mean, yeah, the stadium erupted every time those things happened. Right on the goal line, a yard away, man. It was insane, man. Cheney also did a great job on both of those plays, just getting in the way. One time he caused the fumble, got his hand in there, and then Diggs came up and laid just the hit stick, in the backfield. It was amazing. And Michael Jackson, young guy, he picked up both of those, so it was awesome just to see everybody contributing. But yeah, man, it was you couldn't even hear yourself think. That's how loud it was down there. And it played a role, but it really played a role in the 11 penalties they had. 5 of them were pre-snap. And I don't think anybody's talking about that enough today. That puts you behind the yardsticks in terms of, or where you want to be with your play calling. And so it makes it hard on the opposing offense coordinator on top, as well as the players.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about how it makes life for the opposing OC. In Denver's case, you've got Nathaniel Hackett, the new head coach, first-year head coach. He's the one calling the plays there. And he made some questionable calls. There were some timeouts he could have called. There were times where even the Mannings called it out on the Manning cast, where Cortland Sutton's like waving his arms, like, what the hell? What are we running? He didn't know the play. I mean, talk about that advantage for a defense when you're at home in Seattle and the opposing offense just, they can't hear, can't think.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what all these elite quarterbacks like the Mannings and like Russell, they're so good because, okay, they come out, they give a hard count, and then they see what you're in, and they're like, oh, I got the perfect play for this. If they got the 2 high shell, they're going to run the ball at you. If they got one high, cover 3, they're like, I'm going to hit the seams. They know what to do, and they can do it like in the matter of seconds. But when you can't hear and communicate that perfect play, sometimes you have to go on a silent count, or you got to go with what your, whatever first play was called, because you got guys waving their arms like, what are we doing? And that's not a good, good thing for an offense. And as a defense, man, you thrive off that energy, especially all the big hits that were laid. There was some, man, Diggs, Barton, Brooks, everybody was laying the wood out there, man. It was beautiful. And it was, like I said, vintage Seahawks, Pete Carroll, and then like, it felt like playoff game, man.
It really did. So you mentioned Pete Carroll right there. And this is a guy who obviously, you've got a great relationship with the college level, the pro level. There were some rumors with Seattle, seeming like they were in a rebuilding year after, dealing Russ to Denver and then having the QB predicament, or maybe what we thought was a predicament with Geno versus Drew Lock. There were some people saying, why would Pete stay throughout this? He's already one of the older coaches in the league. Does he really need to stay around through a rebuild? He looked young and spry last night. What'd you see out of Pete with the game plan and his energy on the sideline?
Yeah, I mean, he just keeps getting younger. I think I've said it with you before. He's like the Benjamin Button of coaching, man. He just, every year he seems like he's younger out there and more energy. And so, but yeah, he was, running up and down the sidelines, fist pumping on those fumbles, because turnovers are something that have always been part of his program, whether it was college or now that he's got the organization, the NFL, that, we thrive off getting the turnovers. The Legion of Boom, man, how great they were at taking the ball away. And I think, in a dogfight like that was last night, man, where it seemed like whoever ended up with the ball last would win. And, looked like Russell was going to do the Russell thing. We came away with it because of those turnovers, and then the penalties were huge. That piled on and it made a tough day, but they did march the ball up and down pretty well. I think they had about 450 yards of offense. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But made the right play when we needed to. And then that's why they came out with the victory. And then, like you were talking about, clock management. I mean, that's something that they really got to be thinking about. Now, I know McManus has the leg, but I was seeing some stats, just watching, sports on ESPN today. Russell's something like 68% when he's 4th and 5 or less. I mean, so it's, it's almost 7 out of 10, right? But McManus, who has the leg for like 65, 66 yarders, they line up for a 63 or 64, but he's only 1 of 8 in his career of 60 plus yards. So it was obviously hindsight's 2020, but it's really the clock management, which was most alarming, especially with a veteran quarterback like Russell and Hackett on the sideline. That this isn't the first time they've done this. Maybe together, yeah, but I assume this coaching we're going to step in and save the offense and call a timeout right there.
Yeah, I mean, it was, let's not sugarcoat it, right? It was terrible clock management on Nathaniel Hackett's part. And so, I actually wanted to ask you, because when Hackett was hired, my take was that, to me, offensive coordinators get too much credit sometimes when they have elite quarterbacks. And I feel like you or I, football. So I feel like I could go to Green Bay and be a successful offensive coordinator with Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback. Do you think for Hackett, like, the moment might have been too big? He might not have been prepared for that.
Yeah, it comes with experience, right? But, as a former coordinator or, offensive coach, yeah, maybe you rely a little too much on the expertise of the player that, hey, they know the drill. But it seemed to me like, I don't know if in the moment they weren't on the same page, as a team, because, yeah, some people not knowing what the play was at the line of scrimmage, others, and then even Russ just getting into the huddle. It was just like there was no sense of urgency that, my assumption, I think everybody, even every NFL fan, was gonna be like, okay, we got 2 minutes, we got couple timeouts, we're gonna go as fast as we can to get in a field goal range. Should we not, we'll try to get the ball back or pin them deep or something, take a chance, but get down there. And when the time blunder happened and they took a timeout like last second, and then they sent the field goal out there. And then we were all scared because the first field goal missed.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're not supposed to be able to get that one off. And I think, that's what Pete was thinking. Like,
they always do it.
If that ball gets snapped and that ref isn't standing between that kicker, he's going to take that warm-up rep. Yep. And I mean, they were both identical and plenty of lag. Just thank God they weren't, down the middle.
Yeah, exactly, man. Well, look, Hackett's going to learn sooner or later. You can't take those timeouts with you, man. He had 3 with 20 seconds left. That's going to do that's going to do nothing for you. Hey, the Take 12 pod has a trip coming up, right, Lofa? You're headed out to Germany in November to watch your first place Seattle Seahawks take on the only tied for first place Tampa Bay Bucks. Tell us about that trip. Where can people come tag along with you? And you got some fun events going on out there. What's going on?
We have a list of events, four-star hotel accommodations, a bunch of legends going. KJ Wright's going to be there, me, Leroy Hill, also Matt McCoy, David Hawthorne, Sean Locklear. Like, we have a lot. It's just going to be a nonstop party, and then watching a football game, and then another party because there's an after party after a football game. So bring your drinking shoes. We're going to have the boot over there, Das Boot, and yeah. So you can check it out at lofaingermany.com. I didn't make the decision to name the website. So,
I love it.
Go easy on me there. But yeah, lofaingermany.com, the Take 12 podcast, that's what we're putting on. And it's just going to be, man, a flag football game, a welcome dinner. It's going to be, and then, you get to watch Tom Brady battle our first place Hawks. So I mean, first place
Seattle.
Who doesn't want to see that right now, right? So yeah, it's going to be. How many times are the Hawks in Germany? I mean, they went to London once. This is probably the only time they go to Germany. You're not going to want to miss this.
It's going to be a good time. Definitely head to lofaingermany.com to be a part of that. Man, when I studied abroad in college, I should have made a website called joeinitaly.com. That could have been like my own personal Tinder for studying abroad. I mean, I'm thinking of all the different places you can go with this. It's just brilliant. Your name in a country. That's great marketing right there, Lofa.
Should have bought all those URLs, man.
No doubt. Hey, before we wrap it up, real quick, around the rest of the NFL, obviously week 1 every year comes with a ton of overreactions. What was the biggest thing that stood out to you around the rest of the league?
I mean, it's the same way they always start. The Packers losing, pretty badly. And for week 1, I mean, I think the Saints almost shut them out at home last year or whatever it was. And then, Aaron Rodgers is going to come out with his relax statement, everybody just relax. And that's the truth. And then even with Hawks, now, I mean, we're in first place, the whole division, I think San Fran, they had a close game. Cardinals got blown out by the Chiefs. There's a lot of optimism floating around Seattle right now. And I just hope, they rein it in and they say, hey, man, okay, it's one game, there's a long season to go. And we have a tough divisional opponent at home or on the road in their house when the Niners coming up. And they're coming off an ugly loss, and so they're going to be ready. And I think this will be a real test for us. What other overreactions we got out there? Can you think of any?
I mean, we had some Chargers Raiders action. That was a pretty good game. Carr had some turnovers, still kept a minute late. Bengals Steelers. You appreciate what the Steelers did defensively, right?
Dude, that was absolutely wild. I mean, yeah. So there's three missed kicks in that game. The Steelers are almost handing it away, and then they clawed back in, and fought and came away with the victory. That was, and Joe, Burrow's not going to have it. What was he? 4 or 5 interceptions. He's not going to have another day like that. But just true champion fashion, when he got the ball with a minute to go, he drove him down, or he got down there and made the score. And then there was a missed extra point, right? It was just
it was a bad snap. It was a high snap. The whole operation just didn't work out.
Yeah. But I mean, tremendous, resolve and fight by the Steelers, because there's so many times that game where it was all right, well, the Bengals got it now. There's the win, and they found a way. That was Mitch's first game, right? Trubisky?
Yeah. And did you see Mitch with the video 2 weeks ago? The Let's Ride Steeler Nation? He did it.
Oh, no, did he?
He did it.
I'm going to have to send him a shirt.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. Former first place Seattle Seahawks All-Pro linebacker, Lofa Tatupu. Man, thanks so much for joining the show.
Joey C., you're the man always, brother.